At the end of your exhibition time, you must return the walls to their original state. What goes in must come out. This video addresses simple wall repair for small holes, such as made with a small roofing nail, or perhaps a screw. My personal favorite, it's the floret or picture hanger. Even the mighty pushpin leaves a hole that paint alone will not fill. The repair starts by removing the hardware, in this case, a roofing nail. After removal of the nail, some of the wall material lifts, creating what I call a plaster volcano. If you don't remove that volcano or lump of material, you'll end up with a sloppy repair that requires a lot more material, work, and sanding. The trick to good wall repair is to be sure that the area to be repaired on the wall is a hollow, not a hump. Often by just scraping the wall surface, you can remove the volcano debris. For larger jobs, you can use a hammer to create the hollow. There's no reason to beat a dead horse. Do not overdo. But even this destroyed piece of wall, the hollow, can be resolved with a quick scrape and proper fill technique. But it's best to use the appropriate force in the beginning, as seen here. So, the hardware is removed, and you've prepped the wall for repair by hammering or scraping the volcanoes. It is now time to fill the depressions, or hollows you've made. We fill the hollows with mud. Walls were at one time made and repaired with earth and mud, such as in adobe or cob construction. This is why we still use the general term of mudding for this process of material. This is the type of mud we use today to fill the depressions. It is perhaps more correctly known as joint compound, and is the contemporary industrial standard used to finish and repair walls made of sheetrock. Another material used for wall repair is plaster. Plaster is still available and a great material to work with, but joint compound, it's much more convenient. These are the few tools needed for wall repair: a drop cloth, mud pan, mud knife, pole sander, and the sandpaper. This is the mud pan, and it's used to carry and help in the handling of the mud. This is the mud knife. I only use this size for my work. It's a 6-inch knife. This is the wrong way to hold a mud knife because it puts a lot of strain on your wrist and forearm. This is the right way to hold a mud knife, with these two fingers in the back of the knife blade. This gives you much more control. Your arm stays straight, and this removes the pressure on your wrist and forearm. Word of caution, this tool gets mighty sharp with use. What you don't want to do is plop on a bunch of mud and then sand away the excess. This wastes a lot of material, takes a much longer time to dry, and makes a huge ruddy mess. And the dust made from sanding the mud ruins palm sanders. So first we're going to put some mud in the pan. Just a small plop will do. And then clean off the excess mud off the knife on the edge of the mud pan. Then pick up some mud on your knife and clean off the mud from the corners. This allows for easier and cleaner application of the mud. Apply the first coat. Notice I put the mud on the wall and scrape off all excess. This is a mudding technique you can use when you have several hollows to fill in a straight line. Again, apply and scrape. Wait for the mud to dry. It took just a bit over an hour for this coat to dry. After the mud is dried, it's a good idea to give the area a light scrape. Then apply the second coat in the same manner as the first. So in review, you want to apply 2, sometimes 3 very thin coats, often with a light scrape in between each coat. Don't forget to use that drop cloth. You've got to keep that floor clean while working to prevent tracking the mud all over the place. You can do a lot of damage with some types of mud to plumbing. it can set up in the pipes even underwater, causing clogging and flooding. So the first step to clean up is to empty your mud pan in either the bucket or in a trash can if the mud is dirty or in bad shape. After removing and replacing mud into the bucket, level the top surface. Again, to prevent forming crusty crumbs, dried out mud. Return and close the lid tightly. Using a bucket brush, scrubbing pad, or my choice, the stainless steel sponge, clean the bit of mud residue left in the pan. Then leave the tools out to air dry. Then it's important to immediately clean the sink and run plenty of water. It's now time to resolve the surface. As with between coats, a good first step is to scrape the surface to remove any chunks. Then perform a light sanding with a pole sander. And for the real fussy, a light touch with a damp sponge helps to retain some of the pre-existing wall texture. The sandpaper will last a long time if you just don't try to sand wet mud. It's easy to replace the sandpaper on a pole sander. First, loosen the clamps on the pole and remove the piece of paper. Then replace with a new piece of paper and reclamp. Now that you've removed the hardware, prepared the wall for repair, filled the void, and resolved the surface, it's time to paint. You must be sure you have the right paint for the job. If you don't, your repair will definitely show.
All right, let's see. I need base number 6-351111. Yeah, the white pastel.
For painting, you'll need the following tools and materials. A small container to hold the paint. I'm using a mud pan. A brush. A drop cloth. A paint rag. A stir stick. And of course, the correct paint. Be sure to stir the paint before you use it. If you do not stir the paint, the color may not be correct, and you might get a difference in the surface of the paint, be it glossy, satin, whatever. We were using satin. To prevent flashing or a problem in the surface of the paint, you may have to do more than one coat, 2, maybe even 3. In order to match the texture of the existing wall surface, it's important that the brushwork is a stipple motion, not a brush stroke. Don't become alarmed when you first apply the paint. It will be lighter in color when first applied and will dry down or become darker. Paint can do a lot of damage, and it's much harder to clean up once it's dry. So it's important that when you get paint where you don't want it, such as the floor, you clean it up immediately. Likewise, it's equally important to clean up your brush and other tools as soon as you finish your painting task. And never leave the brush in the container with the paint to clean the next day. These techniques take time and practice to master. Please, if you have any questions or problems, ask for help. Here are some other related videos either available or soon to be available for viewing.